pause is there because my cough is back. Some years ago, I was on a mountaintop high up in the Himalayas, waiting for the sun to come up. It was 6 a.m, and it was still quite dark, and the air was quite crisp and cold. It had taken us 10 days to get up here, and amongst the group there was a hum of anticipation. But as the sun came up, we all fell silent as we watched the mountain range around us transform. As the sun rose, it hit the mountains. Each mountaintop around us turned into burnished gold. It was absolutely incredible. And long after everyone else had gone off to have breakfast, I stayed there, basking in the warmth of the sun, the peace and clarity of that moment. And I felt completely and gloriously alive. And as I was reflecting, I finally admitted to myself that I was desperately unhappy where I was working. And months of political maneuverings, public and private put-downs had left me feeling demoralized, disillusioned, and disappointed with the people I was working with at the top. And I knew I couldn't continue. I came back to London, I walked into my office, and I quit my job. And in the months that followed my resignation, the clarity of that mountaintop stayed with me. I realized that actually there was a pattern here. I had felt this disillusionment with my leaders before. And in one of those light bulb moments, well, I had a light bulb moment, and I understood that the problem was not them. I understood that the problem was with me, my perception and my view of how leaders should behave. Where I'm working, the company I'm working with at the moment, we've just finished our annual staff reviews. And the most common suggestion coming out of them is that we need more leadership. So I asked my co-directors, what does leadership look like to you? Steve Jobs, Richard Branson, Nelson Mandela, Winston Churchill, and my favorite, Genghis Khan, came up. History is littered with heroic tales of great leaders doing great things. And I wondered more about this. These people, they led countries, they led political movements, they were innovators in technology. They broke sporting records. And our concept of leadership is based around this. So last week I was having a little bit of fun, and I was playing on Twitter. And I wondered, who has the highest Twitter following? Does anyone know? No. Okay, let me tell you, not me. Let me tell you. Yet. Katy Perry and Justin Bieber have 46 million Twitter followers. Lady Gaga has 40 million. On the non-celebrity side, Barack Obama is holding his own with 39 million followers. And the Dalai Lama has 9.4 million. The Pope has 4.5 million. And poor old David Cameron has managed to scrape together 804,500 followers. It's an interesting insight into our culture. But what really fascinates me is this concept of a Twitter following. After all, a leader must have followers, isn't that right? And why do we follow people? Why do we copy their dress sense or their hairstyles? Why do we run after them for autographs and selfies or seek their approval? Is it because we think that they are special, unique, and have the answers to success, to happiness, to life? And whether it's a celebrity or a political leader or the person you work for, if we believe that only a small group of people can lead, if we believe that there are only a finite number of Mahatmas or Mandelas, then we accept that the rest of us can't lead. We accept this. And we make supermen and women out of these people. And then we are devastated when they bless you, when they can't deliver, or when we find out they have feet of clay. If we just think back to some of our recent, rather public falls from grace, Lance Armstrong, and for those who are a little bit older, Bill Clinton, and more controversially and recently, Oscar Pistorius. And when I was on that mountaintop, I came to understand that on some level throughout my life, I have been looking for heroes, people to inspire me, people to guide me, people to approve of me, whether it be parents, teachers, bosses, or work colleagues. And I think we all do this. So when CEOs, companies, and other clients ask me, how do we switch on our leadership? My advice to them is don't. Don't try and lead other people. Instead, focus on leading yourself. Focus on self-leadership and self-mastery, and I guarantee you that the rest will follow. So where do we begin? Well, let's start by accepting 3 truths. 1, leaders are just people like you and me. They just happen to be in leadership roles because of the position they're in the company. They may have been elected into that role. They may have been born into that role. And often in business, if someone is a good lawyer or a good accountant, they, as part of their career progression, they eventually manage and lead other people. They didn't choose to be in that role, but there was nowhere else for them to go within the hierarchy. So they muddle through, sometimes with disastrous effects. And like every one of us, they bring to that role their insecurities, their doubts, their joys, their passions, and their view of the world. And it is that which defines how well they would do in their position. 2, we are all leaders. So step up and take responsibility for yourself. In my office, there is a young chap who recently joined. He's an operations assistant. And in the hierarchy of the practice, he is arguably in the lowliest position. In my view, he has one of the highest leadership quotients. He is a self-starter. He manages his time very well. He brings passion and joy into his work. And every day he turns up with a fantastic attitude. So whatever your position in your practice or your company, start fulfilling your leadership potential. But it takes effort, time and effort to work on ourselves. That's why so many people don't do it. It is easier to follow than to lead. It is easier to blame someone else or something else for that lack of promotion or the pay rise you didn't get. She did this to me. It's because I'm a woman. It's because I'm a man. And so it takes effort. In 2005, one of my friends was made redundant. Fortunately, quite soon after, he was able to get a job. And even better, he met and fell in love with somebody. Unfortunately, as he was married, that created a bit of a problem. And that led to the breakdown of his marriage and ultimately his divorce. I met him later that year for dinner, and I spent my entire evening listening to him telling me how his being made redundant and the treatment he received from his employers resulted in the breakdown of his marriage and the state of his life. In 2008, we met up again. I spent my evening hearing how his redundancy and how his employers treated him here had resulted in the breakdown of his marriage and the state of his life. We lost touch, but last year we met up again. 8 years after he was made redundant, he is still playing the same record. And I looked at him, and I didn't say it, but I thought, really? Really? That's like me going to one Bikram yoga class, then eating a massive pizza and 2 large tubs of Haagen-Dazs, and blaming my yoga teacher for the fact that I'm not losing any weight. So step up, start taking responsibility for yourself. If you admire people who are good speakers, if you admire people who have integrity, honesty, who communicate well, cultivate those skills and those qualities in yourself. Become what you admire. And 3, work on the most important relationship above all is that the most important relationship you have is the one to work on, the one you have with yourself. How you see and treat yourself directly influences how other people see and treat you. Why are so many of us intimidated when we meet rich and famous people? Why are we intimidated when we have to speak up at a meeting or go into a networking event? Isn't it because we feel inferior? We feel that we're too boring, that we're too fat, too slim, too stupid, and that we will be judged. I was going to wear a really fabulous red dress today. I was. But my year-long, very intimate relationship with a certain Mr. Haagen-Dazs, any flavour, has had its impact. Should that mean I should have stayed at home and not come along and spoken today? Hell no! I squeezed into this one and I showed up. But for many years, despite my outer successes, I held a very deep belief that I wasn't good enough, that I didn't matter, and I had no value to offer this world. And sometimes it feels like the world is conspiring to make us feel bad about ourselves. You should look like this. You should have achieved this. You should be doing this. It's not good. Because when we feel bad about ourselves, we invite other people to treat us badly. I spent months in board meetings where every time I volunteered an opinion, the senior partner would do this. Eventually, I stopped even trying because I believed that I had nothing of value to say, that I had no value. And because of how I felt about myself at that time, I allowed an insecure bully to intimidate me. Because of how I felt about myself, I enabled him to intimidate me. I enabled it. Your worth is not defined by your job. Your true worth is not defined by your bank balance, where you are in the company's structure, or the size of your corner office. I always thought I was a kind person. I never thought I was a bitch until I listened to how I talk to myself. Listen to what your inner voice is whispering to you. Turn up the volume. And if that message is not loving and not supportive, it is time to change that message. And certainly as you climb up the corporate ladder, you will be making unpopular and sometimes difficult decisions. You will not be liked by everybody. It is so important that you know who you are, you know your values, and you like yourself, because you'll need some support. Leadership starts from within. So I invite you to start today. Do this one thing before you go to bed tonight. Find a mirror. If you are looking for that one person who can support you, who can guide you, who can be your champion, if you are looking for that one person who can give you unconditional love, if you are looking for that one person who will change your life, take a good, long look.